The weak link. The training grounds of Valus Prime shimmered under the light of its twin suns, casting long metallic shadows across the Alliance military outpost. Rows of young cadets, drawn from every corner of the Galactic Union, stood at attention on the assembly deck. Among the polished exosuits and elegant chitin armor of alien recruits, one figure looked woefully out of place, clad in standard-issue brown fatigues, boots scuffed, and hair tied in a simple ponytail. Cadet Arin Solas, human, Earthborn, age 17. She stood quietly at the far end of the line, a head shorter than most and barely acknowledged by her squadmates. Her status was unofficial but clear, the weak link. That one, hissed a nearby cadet in whispers too loud to be subtle. She barely uses tech, carries a knife like it's ancient war gear. Another chuckled. She's from Earth. You know, the Deathworld. They let her in for diversity points. They weren't wrong about Earth being a death world. Arin knew that term well. It wasn't just a label, it was an ecological classification. Earth was a world of hostile terrain, erratic weather, and apex predators that didn't wait for prey to run. But the aliens never truly understood it. To them, it was a curiosity. To Arin, it was Tuesday. Cadets, Bark Drill Sergeant Krethnix, a towering Thaltari with scaled skin and a voice like crushed stone. The entire formation snapped to attention. "You are here to complete the joint survival exercise," he growled. "This is not a simulation. Valus Prime's wild zones are real, and so are its predators. If you die, that's on you." Several cadets stiffened. Arin just adjusted the straps on her backpack. "You will patrol the sector edge tonight. Sensors have been glitching, so keep visual alert. The Rasker pack has been seen in the area. If you see one, pray it sees someone slower." A few nervous chuckles followed. Arin didn't smile. Later that evening, the unit set up perimeter markers around the edge of a forest clearing. The trees swayed like they were alive, their branches skeletal against the rising dusk. Alien cadets checked their drones, scanned with heat sensors, and lounged while their automatons handled the work. Arin dug into the earth with a shard of metal, setting up thin-spiked traps under leaf cover. Nearby, Vec, an insectoid cadet with iridescent wings, watched her curiously. "You always make things by hand," he said, antennae twitching. "Why not use a sentry drone like everyone else?" "They fail," she said without looking up. "These don't." Vec tilted his head. "That's primitive. It survived longer than I have." Before he could respond, a high-pitched buzz filled the air. The motion sensors lining the southern tree blinked red, then flickered out. Glitching again, someone muttered. "I told you we needed to recalibrate the emitter nodes." Arin stood, shoulders tense. "That's not a glitch." Corin, the Zyrelian squad leader, waved dismissively. "Salas, stop acting like it's a jungle from your homeworld. This isn't Earth." "No," she said quietly, "but predators act the same on any planet." Krethnix's voice crackled through the comms. "Squad Echo, report. You have movement beyond the perimeter. Confirm visual." A cadet ran toward the command tent. "Negative visual, sir, wait. The sound that followed wasn't static. It was a scream. Darkness fell fast. Floodlights flickered on, casting ghostly silhouettes across the clearing. The perimeter was no longer secure. Cadets scrambled for weapons, some tripping over their own gear in panic. From the trees came a growl, not deep, but wet, like something breathing through a mouth too wide, too wet, too wrong. Then a shape lunged through the tree-line. The first Rasker was as large as a hoverbike, its mottled skin blending with the shadows until the last moment. Its fangs glistened, curved like hooked blades. It landed on a drone operator and tore into him before anyone could raise a weapon. "Fall back," shouted Corin. "To the bunkers. Now." Arin didn't move. Her eyes were locked on the creature. Her pulse was steady. She knelt, took the spear she'd whittled, and slowly walked forward. "Arin, no!" Vec cried. "You'll get killed." She didn't respond. The Rasker turned toward her, muzzle soaked in blood, crouched low and ready to strike. She stood tall. "Come on," she whispered. "I've seen worse." The beast lunged. In a blur, Arin twisted aside, jamming the spear upward through its underjaw with all her weight. The predator screamed, a choked, rattling death cry. Its body writhed, thrashed, then collapsed. Silence. Every cadet stared. Arin stood over the corpse, breathing hard, acid blood eating through her sleeve. She didn't flinch. Her eyes scanned the forest. "That was a scout," she said coldly. "The rest of the pack is coming." No one laughed this time. The first kill. The stench of burning synthetic fabric and blood saturated the night air. The rascal's carcass sizzled as its acidic blood gnawed into the soil. Cadet Arin Solas stood beside it, her improvised spear still embedded in the creature's jaw. The other cadets watched in stunned silence, barely processing what they'd seen. Corin, the Zyrelian squad leader, broke the silence. Did she just kill it with a stick? She stabbed it through the mouth. Vec exclaimed, wings fluttering in disbelief. "That's not possible." "It's not. Humans can't do that." Arin yanked the spear free, wiped on the dead predator's hide, and turned to the others. "That was a juvenile. A scout. It moved alone. The rest of the pack will come now." "You're not in command," Corin snapped, face pale under his shimmering scales. "No, I'm not," Arin replied, voice level. "But you're about to get us all killed if you keep treating this like a drill." Before Corin could argue, a roar erupted from the forest, lower, guttural, and much, much closer. The squad froze. Arin's face didn't even twitch. "They hunt by sound and fear," she said, eyes scanning the tree-line. "You scream, you die first. They target the weakest. If you run, they'll follow." "Then what do we do?" asked Jiren, a soft-skinned brilliant cadet shaking behind a fallen drone. Arin looked around. "We fight smart. We hold this clearing." Corin shook his head. "That's suicide." "No, that's survival. On Earth, we call this Tuesday." In the frantic minutes that followed, Arin led the squad through a crash course in field improvisation. She directed Vec and two others to strip power cells from the broken drones and plant them around the perimeter, overloaded and rigged to short out in an electric burst. Primitive traps, sure, but enough to shock a rasker off its path. She even crushed glowing fungi underfoot, smearing the residue across trees to mask scent trails. The aliens gawked as she moved, fast, precise, and terrifyingly calm. "Where did you learn this?" Jiren asked. "Summer camp," Arin muttered. They fortified the area using broken crate panels, flipped supply pods, and whatever weapons they could salvage. Corin, still rattled, kept trying to issue half-hearted orders, but it was clear the squad had shifted focus. Arin was leading now, not by rank, but by necessity. A hiss cut through the air. Arin turned her head slowly. Her eyes locked onto a shape slinking through the foliage, light bending around its scaly frame. "Here we go," she whispered. The second rasker exploded into the clearing. This one was twice the size of the first, likely the alpha second. It charged straight toward the group, but Arin had planned for that. She ducked left as it hit the hidden pit trap. The floor beneath it collapsed with a snap of vines and loose planks. It thrashed, trying to climb out, but its hind leg was skewered on a sharpened support rod. "Now!" Arin yelled. Jiren, following her instructions, slammed the activation switch on the salvage power cell. A surge of electricity erupted through the pit. The beast howled in pain, convulsing in sparks before falling limp. The squad stared, stunned. Arin just turned back to the forest. "That's 2. 3 more to go." An hour passed, then another. The remaining raskers prowled the edge of the clearing, visible only in glimpses, shifting shadows, flickers of light, the glint of eyes too large and too knowing. They weren't charging in. They were watching, studying. "They're learning," Arin muttered. "They're planning." Vec asked, voice trembling. "They're pack hunters," she said. "They don't waste energy on threats unless they think it's worth it." A rustle in the branches made the squad jump. One cadet fired wildly into the trees. "Stop," Arin snapped. "You just gave them your position." Too late. A third rasker dove from the shadows, crashing into the cadet's barricade. It was fast, too fast. The barricade collapsed. The cadet screamed. Arin ran, without hesitation. She slid across the mud, grabbed a piece of broken paneling and wedged it between the beast's jaws just before it bit down on the alien's leg. With her free hand, she drew a jagged metal shard from her boot and stabbed upward, under the rascal's jaw, into the soft spot beneath its skull. It reared up and threw her off, but the blow was fatal. The beast staggered, then collapsed next to its prey. Arin got up slowly, bleeding from a gash on her arm. Her uniform was torn, her hands slick with acidic gore, but her expression remained calm. "You okay?" she asked the cadet. He nodded, dazed. "Why, yeah, I think so. Good. Next time, don't shoot shadows." The squad regrouped, shaken but alive. 3 rascals dead. 2 unaccounted for. Then came the sound they weren't prepared for, a growl, deeper than any before. Something stepped out of the trees, taller than the rest, leaner, smarter. The Alpha. It scanned the clearing, its sharp gaze locking on Arin. A low snarl rumbled from its throat. She stepped forward, dragging the bloodied spear behind her. "No traps, no tricks," she said softly. "Just me and you." The Alpha growled again, but then paused. The Predator stared at her, reading her posture, her blood-soaked face, her unshaking eyes. And then it stepped back, 1 pace, then another. A moment later, the beast turned and ran. So did the final rascal behind it. Gasps rippled through the squad. They ran. Vex said, awestruck. Arin stood still, covered in blood, heart pounding, weapon low. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She just exhaled and said, "Yeah, they learned." Deathworld instincts. The forest had fallen into an eerie silence. Smoke curled from the makeshift traps, and the acrid scent of scorched rascal blood hung thick in the air. The perimeter lights flickered but held. All around the clearing, stunned cadets leaned against crates and tree trunks, barely breathing, eyes still locked on the place where the last 2 predators had vanished. They had run, not retreated tactically, not regrouped. They had seen a single bloodied human cadet, evaluated her as the greater threat, and fled. No one spoke for several minutes. Then Corin finally broke the silence. I don't understand," he murmured. "Rascals don't run. They're apex predators. They fight until they die. They're not stupid," Arin interrupted. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the night like a blade. "They know when the cost is too high. They felt it now." Vex stepped forward, his wings still trembling. "They saw you, and decided it wasn't worth the fight." Arin met his gaze, and for the first time that night, she looked uncertain, like the adrenaline was fading and reality was catching up. Her hands were still stained with gore. Acid burns marked her forearm. The makeshift spear she'd used hung loosely in her grip. "I just did what I had to," she muttered. "But that's the point," Corin said, awe creeping into his voice. "You fought like a monster." Arin blinked. "No," she said. "I fought like a human." They moved the wounded into the center of the clearing, creating a tighter defense ring just in case the rascals returned. Krethniks had been silent over comms for the past hour, likely dealing with communications failure. Backup was at least a night away, maybe more. Until then, they had to hold. Arin helped bind the worst injuries, using her own medical wrap and spare cloth torn from her uniform. One cadet, a Delpari named Seiko, winced as she tightened a field dressing around his thigh. "You've done this before," he said through gritted teeth. Arin nodded. "Yeah, first aid on Earth is like a daily routine." He looked at her, disbelief and fascination mixing in his wide, shimmering eyes. "How? Why would it need to be?" She sat back, wiping her hands on her pants. "Earth's full of things that can kill you. Animals, weather, people. You learn early that survival doesn't wait for rescue. You stop assuming someone's coming. You become the someone." There was a long pause. Finally, Jiren said softly, "They call Earth a death world, but I always thought that was just a scare term. Something dramatized by media. Propaganda." Arin gave a humorless laugh. "No, it's just honest." She picked up a rock and idly tossed it between her hands. "My mom once had to fight off a venom wolf that got into our backyard. My brother got dragged by a raptor predator on a hiking trip. We found him because he used broken glass to cut himself loose. I was 8 the first time I killed something trying to kill me. She looked up, eyes hard but clear. You learn to fight, or you don't come home. Around the fire pit they'd hastily constructed, the squad sat in silence, watching Arin. No one questioned her anymore. No one laughed. There was no mockery left. I thought I understood war, Corin admitted. We all study battle tactics. Watch combat simulations. We've done drills. But this wasn't a battle, Arin said. It was a hunt. They weren't invading. They were feeding. You don't outgun something like that. You outthink it, outlast it, or become part of its dinner. The group fell quiet again. The fire crackled. Somewhere in the distance, a forest bird shrieked. Then Vec leaned forward. Back there, he said, when the alpha came out, you walked straight at it. Why? You couldn't have known it would run. Arin shrugged. I didn't. Then why? She looked at the fire, her expression unreadable. Because it had to believe I was the most dangerous thing it had ever seen. Predators don't gamble. They calculate. I had to look like something that would kill it no matter what it did. She stood and walked to the edge of the clearing, where the bodies of the slain raskers still lay. She knelt by the first one, checked its cooling flesh. Then she plunged her hand into its open mouth and yanked out one of its fangs, snapping it free. Vec jumped. What are you doing? Taking a trophy, she said simply. You keep those? Arin nodded. It reminds me what I've already survived. She tossed the fong in her backpack and looked back at the others. I'm going to get some rest. Wake me in 2 hours to take watch. As she walked off, Corin shook his head in disbelief. She's not a cadet, he murmured. Jiren replied softly. She's a Deathworlder. And for the first time, that word didn't sound like an insult. It sounded like armor. The legend begins. Dawn arrived in ghostly waves of pale blue light, filtering through the dense canopy above. The forest of Valus Prime, so menacing just hours ago, now seemed almost tranquil, its terrors buried beneath silence and ash. Arin Solas stood at the edge of the clearing, watching as tendrils of mist curled around the corpses of the fallen raskers. Their once imposing forms were still and rotting. Acid blood pooled and crusted over in the mud. The air smelled of ozone and charred flesh. She flexed her arm. The acid burn still throbbed beneath the emergency wrap, but it was healing. She'd had worse. Behind her, the rest of the squad stirred. Cadets blinked into the morning light, some with bandaged limbs, others too sore to rise. Yet all of them were alive. That had not been a guarantee when the night began. Command finally got the signal through, Vec said, approaching cautiously from behind. His wings were tucked close to his back, still dulled by exhaustion. Dropships inbound. Should arrive within the hour. Arin nodded, but said nothing. Vec hesitated, then asked, You didn't sleep at all, did you? No. You should. I'm used to keeping watch. A pause. Then, softly, Are all humans like you? That question again. She glanced at him. No. Some are worse. Vec stared at her wide-eyed. She smirked. That was a joke. Mostly. By the time the dropship's rumble echoed through the valley, the squad was lined up, battered but intact. Drill Sergeant Krethnix stood waiting at the far end of the field, his arms crossed, an expression unreadable as the ship descended. The hatch hissed open. Out stepped a pair of armored officers from the Alliance High Training Command, flanked by medics and 2 armed sentries. The lead officer, a tall avian named Commander Rel Thas, strode forward. His eyes scanned the destroyed camp, the claw-marked crates, the scorched soil, and the massive corpses of the raskers piled like trophies near the center. What in the void happened here, he muttered. Corin stepped forward, then paused and looked to Arin. She didn't speak. So Corin did. We were attacked. A rasker pack breached the perimeter. We held the line because of Cadet Solas. Rel Thas blinked. The human cadet? Yes, sir. She killed 3 of them herself. With a spear. She led us, Vec added quickly. She organized the traps, the defenses, everything. If she hadn't, he stopped, glancing at the wounded. We'd be dead. Rel Thas turned to Arin. Is this true? She shrugged. They were just predators. Hungry. I've seen worse. You're not special forces. Not trained for this. Arin shrugged again. Earth doesn't wait for permission to teach you how to live. There was a long silence. Then Krethnix stepped forward. Permission to speak freely, Commander. Granted. I was wrong about her, Krethnix said, his voice gravel-low but firm. I thought she was reckless, undisciplined, unfit. But last night, I saw something I haven't seen in any cadet from a core world in 20 years. Rel'Thas raised an eyebrow. Which is? Instinct. True survival instinct. And no fear of pain, blood, or death. She didn't follow the playbook. She was the playbook. Rel'Thas considered this, then turned back to Arin. I've read the Deathworld profiles, he said. I've seen the classifications, the behavioral studies. But I've never seen it with my own eyes. Arin met his gaze calmly. We don't fight to win, she said. We fight because losing usually means getting eaten. An hour later, as the dropship lifted off with the wounded and the dead, Arin remained behind with Krethnix and 2 other cadets to help clean up the site. The camp wouldn't be reused. It would be decommissioned and re-wielded, but Krethnix insisted on leaving it tidy. As she packed up the last crate, she heard a familiar voice. Cadet Solas. She turned. Commander Rel'Thas stood at the edge of the clearing, datapad in hand. You've been offered reassignment, he said. Advanced Survival Tactics Division. Small team ops. Volunteer only. Arin paused. Is that a promotion? No. It's a proving ground. Most who enter wash out in the first week. The rest become the kind of people no enemy wants to meet. She nodded. I'll think about it. Rel'Thas gave a slight smile. You won't need to. You're already halfway there. He walked off without another word. Later that day, the replacement squad arrived, fresh-faced, clean uniforms, high-tech gear. Recruits straight out of academy placement, laughing as they disembarked. One of them, a horned Draxel youth, pointed at Arin as she walked past. Hey, is that her? The Deathworld girl. Another snickered. Didn't she make some giant predators run away? Arin didn't stop. She didn't correct them. She simply shouldered her pack, her rasker fong tied to the strap with a bit of cord. Behind her, the wind rustled the trees. She didn't turn to look. They already knew.